Good morning, everybody. Just woke up, but from yesterday's story, we go into what happened right after I dropped the court case. Well, what happened? I think the next day after I dropped the court case, there was a shooter in Nevada who shot 40, 50 something people from the 32nd floor, and okay, so I'm chewing on that. And I get in the car and I'm going to Maine for a camping trip with the brothers and sisters in the community. Huntington's family and Cookton's family were there. And so my wife and I pack up the car. We put a little carrier rack on the back of the SUV. And just in case I wanted to do videos or whatever, I had packed a camera bag, like an audio video bag with my video camera. This particular video camera that I'm holding right now. So that got put on the back rack. Just as we were pulling out of the driveway, a thought occurs to me that by dropping the case, people from the Cain side and the Abel side must be furious with me. That means people who wanted to obstruct the court case and people who wanted to push the court case along. People who didn't want the demons. Remember I told you that Cookton, he favored the idea of using demons for your purposes, because he said he kept repeating that Solomon did that. He had Hyungjanim repeat this idea on Hyungjam's King's Report in spring of 2017. I think it was around April or March that you could find Hyungjanim saying that. I think, yeah, pretty sure it was April, saying that the kingdom needs, prostitutes and assassins. Okay, and there's this whole bullshit rationale that that Cookton uses. Interestingly enough, my dear friend, pointed out that the time of Solomon's reign where he used demons was right before the end. So that doesn't bode well for people who like to use demons in their regime. Okay? Alright, so anyway, the people who represent these disrespectful to God's children demonic force, they were mad at me because I slipped a punch. I slipped the noose. I got out of their trap. So whatever glee they were going to have by springing the trap or tightening the noose, they were robbed of it because I got out of the trap. And thank God for that Rima. Proverbs 6, 1 through 5. But the people on my side were also mad because no matter how much I argued with them that this was ultimately a trap for all future citizens, I guess they thought that victory was too close at hand to back out now. And I guess they thought me remaining in the gag, they even said me remaining in the gag order is an acceptable loss. And I'm like, speak for yourself. So it's not an acceptable loss for anyone, any person in Chanoguk to lose free speech. And let me tell you my thinking about that. By striking at free speech, they're striking at the power that I have with the word. Okay, there's always, even through these videos, you see there's an unfolding of the word in my life. There's an unfolding of True Father's word. The testimony of what had happened and what is going on is one of the myriad unfolding stories of a believer in God, a child of God, wrestling with one of the angels who have limited awareness and fighting for a true victory. There's an unfolding of the word. And as you speak out about this, you actually create victorious culture. You create wise culture. You create through the word. Everything was created through the word. Healing is created through the word. Forgiveness is created through the word. Second chances are created through the word. First chances are created through the word. Everything was created through the word. So by taking away the free speech of a child of God, they were taking away the life, the spiritual life, the spiritual reanimating power of that faculty. It's almost like taking air away or taking some vital element away from the Lord of creation. And so that's why I felt it was a form of spiritual murder. and I was deeply. You'll see in a later video another instance where the Spirit of God, the Shimjung of God, warned me away from a certain action that I was led to take according to fighting this court and dealing with this constitution. I'll get there later. So my family is in the car, and I'm realizing, wow, both Abel's side and Cain's side, the side that disrespects the children of God, and the side that was trying to appease True Father's appointed representative. Okay, so what happened after that? Some guy pulls up next to our car, and he points to the back. And one of the bungee cords had allowed the camera bag to get loose. Okay? And so this guy's telling me I got something wrong with the back of my car, right? I get off the highway, and I pull into a neighborhood in Connecticut. And I'm thinking, what kind of neighborhood is this? And I'm not sure whether it's a good neighborhood, bad neighborhood, but yeah, so anyway. I get out of the car and I go back there. It was the camera bag dragging by the strap. The strap was hanging on to the rack by the lip of the strap buckle. And all the items had been dragged out of the bag. The bag had been dragged till there was a gaping hole in it. In the bottom compartment, the compartment closest to the ground, had been ripped open by friction. The camera was in that compartment, and the weight of the other part of the bag had pressed down to keep the camera in the part of the compartment that hadn't yet been ripped open yet. So half of the compartment was ripped open, did not exist anymore. But in the other half, it constituted a pocket wherein this camera was saved. And then I had a realization that I should go and testify. Now that I have like my speech back by slipping the noose, that I should testify on camera. Okay, so that's ultimately one of the reasons why I'm doing this set of videos, because if I don't tell the story of the things they don't want me to tell, there's a reason why they tried to shut my mouth. If I don't tell the story, then some dark force wins. There's a reason why they wanted to gag me, whether it was solely Lordist reason or there's deeper satanic reasons. So anyway, that was a very deep spiritual experience. So as we got back on the highway, I started telling my wife, I said, it's like the good and the evil spirit world. They're both mad at me. They're both mad at me. The Cain side and the Abel side are frustrated with me. They don't understand the situation that I was in. Neither side actually understands the situation that I was in. I mean, the evil side understands the situation that I was in, but the more principled side doesn't even understand the situation that I was in. So I have a feeling that none of them ever will. They're too close to the problem. They have too much affinity. They have too much horizontal affection to players in the story who haven't had the necessary breakthrough about fourth atomism and the recreation that we individually are responsible for, as we believe in Father's victories, as we believe what Father says about us, especially in January. Shout out to Marius Henry. He's always talking about this date, January 13th, 2001. Father said, you have to live as though you are the ultimate one. I'm paraphrasing. But it was a very encouraging comment for Father to make. But sinners and Satan, will tell you, just like Greg Knoll tried to tell me, that you shouldn't have that much confidence. Father says, go out and have this confidence. You're the ultimate one. You just have to have confidence in what it is that Father created. Anyway, so some of these people on the good side are emotionally invested in, one or two of the, at least one side of the Cain Abel thing going on there in Sanctuary. One brother, either the Cain side or the Abel side. But there is no complete victory in either for decentralization and bringing the archangel to surrender. I had tried to tell Hyungjin many times about the games that they were playing, but he didn't want to treat them like archangels. The rima that my dear friend got about foreign wives, the realization my friend got about Jim Bohr being having conflicts of interest. I mean, all these things I tried to share with Hyung Jidum. I told him about going after the World Mission Department in the interest of seeking justice, and he had his limit. So the people that just wanted to allow him to have his limit, they're mad at me for dropping the case, and the people who, just were more like cooks to him, like, we're all powerful, we have the right side, you got the crown, so you can do it all, you can do anything. So that idea of like absolute power rules even over all of us lords of creation and citizens of Channel-guk. Those types are mad at me. So then we were listening on the radio, and I heard about a guy who shot these people in Nevada from the 32nd floor. And I'm a numbers person. Actually won a science fair when I was a junior in high school using a math paper. No concoctions, no construction of any kind, just a detailed explanation of a mathematical process. So I'm a kind of, I've been a number, me and numbers were my first friends that understood me because I wasn't too social when I was a kid. But, so when I saw that number 32, I said, I think this is close to how many days I was in the court. Because I remember calculating how many days was it from the time that I filed the lawsuit in the voluntary court, and how many days to the day that I dropped this case. So it was 32 days. And I said to God, I was talking to my family about it, and they were like, do you think this really connected? And so I said, let me ask God. So I had this short prayer. It was a vocal prayer. Out, everybody in the car could hear it. So I said, God, do you think there's a connection between this 32 floors and the 32 days? And right then I look out the window. Something makes me look out the window, and I see the milepost that we are passing. It was milepost 32. And that was confirmation that what I'd felt about the, the murder of the citizen, that I was under the gag order for 32 days. Okay? And so the citizen was in a state of being in a precarious situation, of being like in the clutches of darkness, of the dark ones. At this point, evil has a look and a behavior. It doesn't matter whether these people have the name of being good people. If you warn a person and you say, hey, there's something unprincipled about what you're doing, and they continue to do it, I don't really want to hash this out. The matter is whether I'm willing to call them evil. Well, I'll just tell you this. Hiring someone that assaults people, dozens of people, and never listening to their complaints is disrespectful. I think it's a form of evil. Entrapping someone in a gag order while some of your operatives from different angles try to get them to break the gag order, I think that's a form of evil. While your own operative who's under a gag order breaks the gag order by talking to two young adults about the case, and when if she's found out as having broken the gag order through an online fictitious alias, right? You come after the person who gleefully discovered this truth, and you do something punitive. I think that's pretty daggone wicked. Saying that there is no Channel-guk in order to avoid being exposed, throwing the entire Channel-guk under the bus because you want to avoid the spectacle of being exposed. I think that's kind of evil. So I don't really feel bad about using the word evil. Like Ronald Reagan said, evil empire, when he referred to the Soviet Union. I really don't feel bad about using the word evil. Question remains is whether it's evil that the person empowering this, Hyungjin Sean Moon, is it an act of evil that he turns a blind eye to what all the demons that his brother, in his philosophy of it's good to hire demons and prostitutes, is it an act of evil that he didn't want to be bothered with the details of what they were doing? It certainly would be an act of evil if he told them to do these wicked things. If he thought that that his name, his title, allowed him to do these subversive, diabolical things, that certainly would be evil. If he goes out and says, I promise you, we are creating an upside-down kingdom where the patron is in the subject position, the citizen representing citizen, and the church official is in the object position representing servant. They're servants of the people. So if he says that, but doesn't actually enact any decisions that mirror or rhyme with that, then he, at the very least, could be called in error. But somebody might even say that he's a hypocrite or a liar. So Hyungjin Sean Moon's going to have to answer in his own spirit, and we know he knows about plausible deniability and planning out a story and a narrative so as to hide behind a plausible deniability. But he is responsible. Even in his deposition, Cook-Jin was asked about who wrote this trap called the Constitution. And the Constitution is a trap. And I'll tell you about that in later stories. In the later, next couple of months, that starts to come out. But even though Cook-Jin is the one who likely wrote the majority of it, I had a conversation with Jim Bohr about that. He said at the gas station that Cook-Jin only gave him like a couple of hours, or it was a factor of two. No, not a factor of two. It was either 2 days or 2 hours. Some ridiculously short amount of time to look over a document that was 99% populated. And Jim Bohr said, well, there's no issue about abortion in this document. So Cook-Jin took it and had added to it some issues about abortion that Jim referred to. And Jim said that is the extent of his contribution to that document. So who's got responsibility for that document? Hyungjin Sean Moon has responsibility for that document, because that's what Cook-Jin said in his deposition. He saddled responsibility for this trap, this word trap, this evil document. Hyungjin Sean Moon is responsible for it. Now, one of my friends noticed that on the day when he issued the Cheonoguk Constitution, he got very sick. And you know, with spinning words and spinning stories, the narrative was he got sick because Satan didn't want him to do it. Well, who's in charge of Hyungjin's body if he's a good person? God or Satan? So the other narrative, the one that seems to fit with what's discovered later about the Constitution, is that God and good spirit world did not want him to consecrate or set forth that document. And so that is why he got sick, because he was about to do something that would cause him to commit a great sin against the real Cheonoguk, because the document says that the long-awaited kingdom is not here, and is a direct 180-degree contradiction to what Father said and asserted in January 2001, that the long-awaited kingdom, even though you may not believe it, is actually here. So they don't understand the dynamics. I understand. They don't understand the dynamics of this type of kingdom, because they're trying to compare it to material-based kingdoms of the satanic world. So they're looking for something to look like that. All right. So, you know what? I'm going to go inside because they're sucking up the leaves in the neighborhood. So, sorry, you got to bear with me. So, anyway, what happens next? So, anyway, I asked God, is the shooter from the 32nd floor, is that connected? So God basically lets me know that these two things are connected, that by me setting the condition of going in there, I put humanity in a precarious position. And so this is the way that was extracted. Satan couldn't claim everyone, but he claimed some number 32, because it was bad condition to be in a voluntary court. Because any realm outside of Cheonoguk is a realm where Satan can do whatever he wants. He can roam around doing whatever he wants. The voluntary court existed outside of Cheonoguk. There is no space for volunteer citizens inside of Cheonoguk. All the citizens are birthed inside of Cheonoguk or grafted. Okay, so that's my mistake. I was deceived, but at least it wasn't all of humanity. So then the next story has to do with me fishing with my friend Larry. So Larry had been in Ocean Church for a number of years, and he met God in so many desperate situations trying to catch fish. You know, one time he had to catch a fish because he needed to eat, and he was far from friends and family, and had run out of cash, but he still had his equipment. And anyway, he caught that fish after he had this incredible breakthrough and realization internally. And we all know about having external breakthroughs after internal breakthroughs. So he likes fishing because he met God there. So he's out there, and we're out on a rock, and I join him, and he starts telling me about how spiritual fishing is. Then we're joined by Robert Pt1 out there in Maine, and there's this inlet that we're camped out next to. So I think he gives a fishing line, a fishing rod to, Robert Pt1. So what happened is, we're sitting about 20 feet apart, maybe 30 feet apart, and hold on a second. And it's me, I'm closer to the ocean, then Larry, 20 feet away, and then 20 feet beyond him is Robert. And somehow, my line gets tangled up with something. So we all pull our lines in, and somehow my line went past Larry's line. I wasn't tangled with Larry. Larry was in between me and Robert. But my line got tangled with Robert's line. And so Larry, being polite, doesn't say anything. After the fishing is done, Larry says, it's not really probable that it would happen exactly that way, that it would get that tangled that short period of time without it meaning something. It totally skipped Larry's line, right? So we're walking back to the camp, and Larry's telling me that actually means something. I'm like, why don't you just come to the point, Larry? What do you think it means? And he goes, you're tangled up with that guy. You're tangled up with that guy. And I had been agonizing over the fact that, part of the filing cadre just wants to push me through, and there's something wrong with this court, and I cannot get them to understand that there's something wrong with this court, because anything that the king sets up must be good. Just have faith in it. So that's their point of view. And I'm like, no, we're beyond the era of central figure. That's true. That will work for you in the era of central figure. But Father said, if you still stay in the era of restoration, you allow Satan to continue to act. And so Satan wanted to kill humanity. That's why the guy shot from the 32nd floor everybody that he could based on the condition. So I didn't want to stay in a state where I'm allowing Satan to gag me. I'm allowing Satan to gag me by staying in the court. And Robert couldn't understand that. And then Larry suggests that the tangling of the wires was signifying something. So I pondered this, and I realized that Robert would use me as bait to get one or two things. Either get his moment where he helped Hyungjin carry out court for the first time, or get Lord of Schwartz. But it had a Captain Ahab theme to it, as this is the middle of the night. A vision comes to me of me being in this old fisherman's wooden lattice box trap, and it's big enough to catch a whale, and my whole body's in there, and this whale comes in, and the fisherman springs the trap, closing it, capturing the whale or the fish and me in the box. That if I had to just be nothing more than bait to Robert, that's all I was. So I go to bed, I wake up the next morning, and I wind up talking to Robert, and I tried to explain to him one final time. And I say final because I didn't talk to him again after this. I tried to explain to him one final time how the court itself was asking me to set a condition that I couldn't set that would be bad for humanity. He didn't want to see it that way. So you're talking to somebody who, no matter what you say, doesn't want to see it that way. Sort of like some of those people online who are hardened, and one particular brother who, even put words in my mouth, and just wicked people. I don't think Robert is as much a bold-faced liar as some of these people online. Scat O'Leary. I'm thinking about Scat O'Leary. Scat O'Leary is a bold-faced liar. But anyway, I stopped talking to Robert because I yelled at him. I told him he's stupid, and that was it. I don't want to talk to him anymore because that man would have just simply used me as bait. All I was bait. for his version of conquest from his point of view. And yeah, so that's what happened after the court case. Let me check my notes here for anything else I prepared. Fishing Tango, stop talking. Yeah. So that's what happened to the filing cadre. It was split, and that's enough. I'll talk to you later, because right after this point, we were trying to create the conditions for a better court, a real Chonoguk. We had realized that this fake Chonoguk, this voluntary thing, was the problem. So we went forward and we created a citizens covenant, and we were going to create a group that could constitute a second state. Why? Because according to the Chonoguk, United States of Chonoguk Constitution, Tim Elder was saying you need at least 2 states. So if the first state was the sanctuary church, if we create a second entity, okay, Cookson did say go start a church, another church. If we created this second entity, it could constitute a second state, and then we could install in both states this Congress, okay? So you'd have to have at least 2 states, Tim said, so we were starting to explore that. Okay, so I wasn't giving up on the idea of getting the apology from the Archangel. I was giving up on the voluntary court. I was giving up on the idea that I would seek justice outside of Chonoguk. So I'm trying to work with the United States Chonoguk Constitution still at that point, and it says that we need 2 states, or more than 1 state. And that's for the next time. Talk to you later.